The president getting more involved now in where the 9/11 trial should be held. Catherine Herridge is in Washington with the very latest. Catherine, what are you hearing now?
Well, thanks a lot, Eric. The White House is insisting tonight that it is congressional pressure to pull the financial plug on the 9/11 trials in that New York federal court, which is forcing the president's hand.
Since this effort has moved from strictly a Justice Department decision to something that's in the legislative arena, the White House and by definition the president are involved.
Pressed on whether Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the self-described architect of 9/11, and his four co-conspirators could face military justice, Robert Gibbs did not rule it out. And in an interview with the Washington Post today, the Attorney General Eric Holder says federal court is still the preferred option for the case and for the overall fight against al-Qaeda. But significantly, Holder also appears to leave the door open to military trials. At the end of the day, wherever this case is tried, in whatever forum, what we have to ensure is that it's done as transparently as possible. If we do that, Holder says, I'm not sure the location or even the forum is as important as what the world sees in that proceeding. And just to give you some context, Eric, all of this has transpired almost 3 months to the day since the Attorney General Eric Holder announced that the 9/11 case would be going to that federal court. So it seems to be a fairly significant shifting of the position at this time.
Very good. That's Catherine Herridge. Thank you very much, Catherine.
You're welcome.
All right, all this as polls show a majority of Americans do not want these guys tried in a civilian court. My next guest is one of them. Debra Burlingame lost her brother, Chick, on 9/11 when the plane he was piloting was hijacked and flown into the Pentagon. Thank you for joining me. First of all, sorry for your loss. You heard the Attorney General Eric Holder now saying that the venue is less important than actually getting a conviction out of this. Is this enough for you?
Well, I think what he said just now was that transparency was the most important thing. And you heard the president's spokesperson, Robert Gibbs, say it's just a Justice Department decision. It was never just a Justice Department decision. We believe that the president has been AWOL as commander-in-chief. His first duty as president is to protect the safety and security of the American people. That's more important than the venue, frankly. And by being AWOL, by abdicating and delegating it to the Attorney General while we're at war, he missed the threshold question, which is for the Commander-in-Chief. Are we at war or are we fighting street crime? He just announced a couple months ago that he's sending 30,000 more troops to some of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's, to fight some of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's comrades in that war. And so we welcome the fact that the President and the Attorney General are now considering Congress. But the reason the American people found this decision repugnant is because they understood, innately understood, that this is a question of national security, not process.
Right. You know, I was there. I was there for both the bombings of the World Trade Center, the first one in February of '93, and then the 9/11 bombing. And I will never forget the vision of family members being walked to the site with teddy bears, and in essence being the burial ground there. You must feel, how do you feel towards the president when he can go ahead and say, hey, 15 minutes of interrogation before the Christmas Day bomber is allowed to lawyer up and get Mirandized?
Well, it's outrageous, and frankly, I'm thinking less of my lost brother at that point than all the brothers and sisters who are fighting the enemy right now in the sands of Iraq still and in the mountains of Afghanistan. I don't want any of them to lose their lives, and yes, we have to interrogate these people to get actionable intelligence, real-time actionable intelligence, and we know that we can't fight them in the courts. We have to disrupt these plots before they can happen. That means getting them into a room and throwing out the Marquise of Queensberry rules and getting tough with them and putting that first before constitutional rights. And remember, Eric, when you put them in the criminal justice system, the duty of the judge isn't to look out for national security or what is best for our war fighters. It's the due process rights of the defendant in front of them. And the judges are not accountable to the American people. So I find it regrettable that the president doing this because of pressure from Congress. He should be doing it because it's the right thing as commander-in-chief and president of this country.
Now, Deborah, you've been protesting the venue being New York, but you're also protesting the fact that it's a civilian trial versus military tribunal. Is that right? Are you going to continue?
Right. I have to say, I just moved recently, and I called up the congressman in the new place where I live, and I said, I'm following your vote, and I'm going to go out there and talk to my neighbors about this. Military commissions are a part of our history going back to the Revolutionary War. George Washington used them. FDR used them in World War II, and even Eric Holder called them honorable, fair, and effective, and comporting with our nation's values. They have this fetish about civilian due process for people who have acted as unlawful enemy combatants. These are people who have violated the laws of war and are being, in terms of targeting civilians, and yet they're being rewarded by constitutional rights, which basically tie the hands of our war fighters. You have the Attorney General suggesting that we wouldn't even interrogate Osama bin Laden if we caught him because he wants him Mirandized.
Right. All right, Debra Burlingame, thank you very much. You speak for a lot of people. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eric.